Welcome back to the New Agenda. My name is Candace New, and I am your host. What an incredible season we've had so far. Last week, we had Clint Obenchain on talking about his new movie, Vengeance, the B.J. Novak, Ashton Kutcher film, which is currently in theaters. You should definitely check it out. Clint's one of our own, so yes, let's go New Mexico. Woo! Also, next week, you guys are in for a treat. We are bringing out an incredible young woman, she like my age. I'm a young woman, okay, don't judge me. But we're bringing out an incredible human from Colorado. She is an award-winning novelist. She has 12 novels in publication right now and sitting on a couple more that are coming out in the next couple of weeks. So Cindy Prince Gunderson will be joining us next week, so make sure you tune in to that episode. And a couple of weeks down the line, we also have John Christian Love coming out to join us, which we're really excited about, especially with Breaking Bad coming out. If you don't know who that is, then you'll just need to hang out and watch. And if you're an actor locally, you should definitely come out and be in the live studio audience for that. Check out our website if you want tickets or to find out more. Today's show, of course, is going to be awesome as always. I have a couple of really talented, extraordinary guests who are coming out to share their journey, to talk about how they are making big things happen here in New Mexico, but also just how we go about accomplishing those things in our own lives. So tune in, and we're going to get started right away with our very first guest. This young man is a talented emerging actor. I don't know if emerging is the right word, but a talented actor who is coming on the scene and doing some really big things, and I'm excited to have him on my show today, Taylor Lance Rodriquez. Hello, darling. Come on out. Hi.
Hi,
How are you? Really? That's awkward.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
You know,
your hands are like wet.
One.
What are we doing? All right.
There's a lot happening.
You can sit there, and you can move the pillows.
Great.
If you want.
Of course.
Yeah. I was just kidding, guys. I don't even know this guy. Why are you on my show? This is not who I was expecting.
You know, I was walking around outside, and I was pretty hungry. I smoked coffee and donuts and whatnot, so thought I'd stop by.
Are there donuts, friends?
You're
lying.
I'm
just kidding. Okay, we're just kidding. This is Taylor. Hey, so I'm super glad to have you on my show for real.
Yeah, my pleasure.
How you been?
Been good. Yeah, been pretty great.
Awesome. So I want to know a little bit about you. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey as an artist? How'd you get started in this industry?
Absolutely. You know, I've always liked attention. Growing up as a kid,
That doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah,
actually.
right. I just like to perform. I like seeing people laugh, and just entertaining, and being a bit of a spectacle. Took it serious when I went to college, and from there on, I just kind of got a feeling in my stomach. I was like, not sure what the film industry is about, but I want to finish my degree, perform as much as I can. But I think there's something going on in Albuquerque, New Mexico, so that was my next move.
Now you were from New Mexico, or you're from?
Yeah, born and raised. I'm a New Mexico boy. I'm originally from Carlsbad, New Mexico.
Carlsbad. There's a really big film scene in Carlsbad.
Oh yeah, huge.
So once you decided to kind of start stepping in, what did you get yourself into?
Well, I knew the first thing I needed to do was get an agent. So I was gunning just to get that accomplished. And funny thing, before I ever signed with an agent, I was like, well, I want to act. I don't know the technical side of the business, but I want to act. So how do I look for auditions? So I found platforms, looking for stuff. Facebook, of course, like the first main thing I would kind of stay on top of if I found anything. And I found one, and it was amazing. I was like, are you kidding me? That's happening in New Mexico? And it was a horror film called 13 Fanboy, and they said they were booking local talent for speaking roles. So I was like, and it was in Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, that's like 2 hours away from Carlsbad. I'm on it. So I went out and did my thing.
So you auditioned?
Yeah.
You didn't just like go out and just jump on a set. You're just like, hey, I'm here.
Right. Yeah. Hey,
I mean,
here it is. Let's work. I wish. No, I went over there. I auditioned. I was like, okay, cool. I looked at like what was available. There was like a cop, or a person walking outside. I was like, cool, I'll do the cop. There's more lines. He's like, hello, ma'am, you okay? Stuff like that.
Right.
And so that's what I went in for.
Awesome. And I understand that we have a clip from, is it 13 Fanboys?
Yeah, 13 Fanboy.
What is this? Okay, what is this about?
That's the coolest part. Like when I got more information and everything started happening, it is it's not a fan film. It's a bit of a spin-off from the 80s franchise Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah, Jason, the guy with the hockey mask.
Yeah.
And the alumni from the franchise are like in the film as themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting.
Interesting. And as themselves, not as older versions of the characters, but as actually themselves.
Yeah, as actually themselves.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I actually had not Nightmare on Elm Street, but Halloween. We had a Halloween star Tamara Glenn on a couple of
super cool.
well, like in like season 2.
Yeah.
So she came out and she was talking about like that kind of like horror film family thing that happens like when you're in a horror franchise. Like they still all keep in contact, and I mean they go out to these conventions and all this stuff. It's like they're like really
cool.
it's awesome.
It's like its own little world,
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and play that clip. 13 fanboys.
Yeah.
Scott must have a say in it. It was his idea.
It was my decision, Mom.
Okay, well, guess we better get this crazy woman out of here then.
Sorry, Mom. You gave Dad and I no other choice.
They were fine. Jesus Christ.
You should move.
What?
Maybe you should move.
Not a chance. You know how many memories there are of Ronnie and you kids in this house? I'm not going to let some psychopath run me out of my own home.
Wow, you with short hair.
Yeah. I would say that was a really long time ago because of the hair, but I think my hair just grows really fast.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, that's awesome. So, what was your experience like on that set?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, like I said in the film, it's the alumni from the Friday the 13th franchise, right? For those of you that are 80s buffs or Gen X, the blonde lady, that's Dee Wallace, and she's in a million things. And when I walked in and saw her face, I was like, is this happening? I knew her. I'm 30 years old, so I didn't get to experience the 80s, but still a huge fan. I was like, E.T., she's the mom. I watched Cujo. She's like in the Critters movies. Those are all like really cool horror films out of the 80s. I was like, this is amazing. So it was just super cool. Also, huge Lost Boys fan,
Yeah.
Quote unquote, probably one of the best vampire movies to ever have been made.
Okay.
It's
I
the best.
mean, you're welcome to have an opinion about that.
Hey, okay. But Corey Feldman, he's a household name in 80s horror and just 80s film in general. And he's also in the film. I didn't get to meet him. I don't have any scenes with him, but it was amazing. Yeah, and a lot of faces that I recognized from that era.
That's awesome. All right, so after that, you obviously went on. You've been continuing to work in New Mexico ever since. You've done a couple of other projects. What else have you been on?
After 13 Fanboy, I've done a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of feature that I was cast for, all local work. Some of it from Texas, but a feature that can be watched called The Curse and the Covenant.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was pretty neat. It's a fantasy genre. I had just a featured role in that, but fantasy genre was one of my favorite. So I was just super stoked to have a sword and have all the get up and just look cool doing that sort of stuff. I did a pilot, which was amazing, called Behind the Yellow House.
Okay, I've heard about that.
Yeah, that was super cool. Definitely one of my more difficult roles. And I was blessed and fortunate enough to get a lead in it for the pilot. And it's based off of a true story. And one of the craziest things I experienced was the little girl that the whole story is based around. She was on set, as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And my character played her father.
Okay.
And their relationship, was something, something of a tragedy, It's a very dark story and true story that happened outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, I think in the early 1970s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I know that that's still in post right now, so we don't know when that's coming out. But
Right.
we're looking forward to seeing that. I love independent film. I'm a total indie film guru, and I think you should watch indie before you watch other things. Personally, I think you should support indie, and it's the opportunity for local filmmakers and emerging filmmakers to really get started and to have their voice in a world that's often kind of left. I hate to say it, but to the more elite, people. So I love indie film for that because it's always that opportunity for us to express ourselves. And so I'm an indie film person. And I think that's one of the greatest things about stuff that's happening in New Mexico right now, that I actually am bringing out one of my good friends to talk about some programs that are coming up to support local indie film and to really kind of elevate the film scene here in New Mexico. So I'm going to bring out my second guest so she can join us and have this conversation. Carey Rose O'Connell. Hello, darling. How are you?
Thank you.
So excited to have you on my show.
Good to see you.
Sorry
to be with you.
Welcome.
Hi, good to be with you guys.
How are you today?
I'm good. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, absolutely. Carey Rose and I have been hanging out a lot.
Yes.
We've been doing a lot of collaborative work, and I know you've been doing a lot of work in the community. And
Yes,
you just started a new initiative that I'm super excited about. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I can. So I just started the Albuquerque Film and Media Incubator. So it's meant to accelerate both content and careers for local independent filmmakers. And it's basically from my background in organizational and communications management. When I delved into film, I looked at the industry and I just saw a bunch of gaps in access, information, and community. So the incubator has been developed and launched to fill in those gaps, basically.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what kind of projects, so can you tell me about what kind of projects do you take on and what do you do when you have a project? And where
Sure.
should they be in their process when they get started?
Sure. So we take projects that are in development. So you got to be, just a lot of them are like, I have a great script and I'm already stuck. And so that's a great place to start with the incubator. But we do micro budget productions. And so it's a little bit more bite-sized and easier for us to get them from A to Z so that I can also spend time teaching the business of film while we make the project. So they get above the line producer training the entire time that they're actually producing their short film, their documentary, their episode. We've done pilot episode. We've done a short film. We have a documentary and a short film in development right now. So what I like to say is making your project is going to be hard. And nothing can stop that. Making a film is hard. We all know that. But what the incubator is meant to do is add simplicity in several key areas that often just stop filmmakers in their tracks. Like, how do I fundraise? How do I carry production insurance? How do I apply for a state tax credit on my project? And you can on micro budget productions.
That was something I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for like a while.
And
like,
you could be getting
money.
up to 25% of your money back to seed your next project if you do that correctly. And so it's about showing them that process so they always choreograph their whole film in a way that makes sense and it most effectively sets them up for success with whatever their film's goals are, which you'll learn. We actually teach you should be deciding in development and not after you've already made the movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. Weird.
Crazy
That's
concept.
amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I so much appreciate, you and the energy that you've brought to
Thanks.
kind of reinvigorate New Mexico film. Like, I think that we'd kind of gotten to a place where the indie scene was needing something. And there was some conversations about what that could be and how that could be done, but nobody was really stepping up to the plate to do it. And you really did. And so that's been really exciting.
Thank you.
I actually got to know Carey Rose through New Mexico Women in Film.
Yep.
And through that relationship, she got to know a little bit about what Katharsis Media was doing, which is the nonprofit that produces this show, in case y'all didn't know that. And so one really cool thing that Carey Rose did was she connected Katharsis Media with an annual festival conference that's coming up.
Yes. Oh, I have
and
to talk about
to
this.
allow us to be kind of the recipients of some of the sponsorships. So we're kind of like there. I'm gonna let you explain it because I
Yeah.
actually don't know how to explain
Let
it.
me explain it.
Thank you.
Let the marketer explain it. No, actually, we have a wonderful opportunity this year. Some colleagues, actually, I should just say some friends and mentors, really of mine, some peers, came together with me, and we were talking about different ways we could help plug in the local community to the resources that are here. Because regardless of what you currently believe, there are resources here that you have access to, but it's just that we don't know about each other. And so we wanted to create some sort of expo or some sort of experience that plugged a bunch of us all together. And I had the wonderful opportunity to meet Ivan and Kira, who run the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience every September. And they liked the idea of some sort of an expo to really bring local resources in a utility-based way. You know, we often get invited to things where we do get to meet, you know, casting agents or SAG-AFTRA Guild representatives or union representatives, but we don't often get to meet who actually provides local insurance to filmmakers?
Right.
Who are the people that actually rent equipment to local filmmakers? Where can you get walkie-talkies? Where can you get affordable craft services and catering? Like, how do you do all that? There's actually people here that have all those services and are dying for customers. So it was about that passion that we all had to create this utility impact in the industry. So we added on the 18th, Sunday the 18th, the New Mexico Media Access. It's a next level film and TV industry expo.
Yep.
And we'll have tons of vendors out in this wonderful area as part of the Albuquerque and Film and Music Experience, and they're going to be sharing everything that they do. And this is not going to be one of those things where you're walking around a bunch of tables with like polyester tablecloths and
Right.
volunteers are handing you a pen. Like, we're encouraging all of our participants to really be there to engage and talk to people that come up to their booths about what they're able to offer and really help people see a way to make it happen rather than just like, here's a magnet about my brand, that
Right.
type of thing. So it's going to be a really impactful, I believe, event just to plug in. And then we're going to have a wonderful keynote speaker there named Josh Friedman, who
Yes.
wrote the Ultimate Production Assistant's Handbook. He basically is talking about the best way to create a career trajectory from production assistant all the way to the DGA. And he's done that himself. He wrote a book about it. He does it in New York, and he's flying in to talk to us and our local community about that as well. And then I just have to promote really quickly, because the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience is going to have a ton of stuff all through the 13th and 18th, both live and virtual, so you can attend this festival in two different ways. Dee Wallace, she's going to be here with Women of Horror.
Are you
Are
serious?
you excited?
Yes.
Oh my
So there's-
God.
There's a
That
center
is so
stage,
cool.
so that's a center
You're
stage
kidding me.
conversation you got to go to.
Now I have to go.
Yeah.
Stuart Lyons, Christopher Lockhart. There's a wonderful pitch contest, and really you have until August 27th. Go get your pitch ready. You're going to be able to practice pitching in front of some of the most talented people in the industry right now and get real feedback. And then the winner of that pitch gets a wonderful prize from entertainment partners. So there's so many center stage conversations, so many wonderful screenings, so many resources to plug into. We are thrilled to be added to the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience, because that's really what it is. And we just want you to go all week long and be inspired by what the potentials are. And at the end of the week on Sunday, join us to plug in on that inspiration that you can convert into actual action. Because as long as it's just your vision, it's nothing.
Right. And then that's plugging in somehow to Katharsis.
So Katharsis, we've named as the Expo's benefiting nonprofit. So we wanted it to go to a film-related nonprofit that is really productively doing things in the community to help boost independent film. And obviously I knew Candace, and we looked at several nonprofits in the area, and Katharsis really fits what our whole goal is this just really this utility of the industry, and we have to actually take ownership of it ourselves and prove we can do it here.
Yeah.
And so Katharsis is a great model of that. And then a nonprofit, got to give them street cred for being a nonprofit, because that ain't easy. And so they're benefiting nonprofits. So they get to, obviously, they're going to get lots of press and attention at the expo itself. And then, we're fundraising. So we have sponsors. Creative Startups is our key sponsor. Thank you, Alice Loy, for being our key expo sponsor. But we just recently had Rising Star Stunts, Flyby Provisions, New Mexico Film Foundation, Safe Sets Initiative, Broken Chain Photography. There's going to be a lot more than that I'm not naming. They're all getting signed up now, but
That's
all these
awesome.
people are coming together to set their brands up. But then as we raise that money, as we have proceeds, we'll donate them to Katharsis to help them keep their mission on track. And
And what we're doing with that is actually something that's really cool, because we just started working with the City of Albuquerque Film Office and the State Film Office, and all the different educational organizations as well, to work out this Career Pathways program, which is basically a hands-on internship program. We have 2 tracks. So we have a track for high school students, which are like not sophomores, juniors and seniors in high school.
Yeah.
And then we also have a track for adults who are wanting to get into the industry or wanting to learn a new trade within the industry. And so there's the programs kind of operate in the same way, but they're 2 different tracks, just so that we can keep the kids with the kids and the adults with the adults, which makes sense. But so the first phase of it is a rotation year, or a rotation. It's a certain amount of hours, so they can actually do it at their own pace. They can just come in for 5 hours a week, or they can come in for 20 hours a week, or they can really come in and like spend all day every day. They'll get to work in studio here at 519 with a lot of the productions that come up here. And then also on location through a lot of our independent film that's going on, our independent film community here in town. So we're partnering with all kinds of independent producers. Carey Rose is actually helping us to get connected with some producers for that as well. They will have interns on their sets, and our program will help to finance some of the roles that those interns are mentoring under. And so if you have a camera intern, then we will be able to help fund your director of photography who's mentoring that kiddo, or adult. It doesn't have to be a kiddo, which is kind of cool. I always call them kiddos. It's terrible, even if they're like 6 years old. If I'm teaching them they're a kid, which is terrible. I'm sorry. So that will help them. So that's the first year, or the first phase is what we call it. The second level is a professional level, and you can jump right into that if you already know what you want to do, or you have some experience. And so you can jump right in, and that is where they come in, and let's say that they already know that they want to be a camera operator, or if they want to go into directing, or if they want to just come in and do sound or art department or makeup, whatever. So they know what department they want to go into. They will spend those hours working within that department. I think it's 190 hours or 180 hours to get certified in whichever department. And so the rotation year, they spend about 12 hours in each department, and then 12 hours on a department that they choose to go a little bit deeper into. And then that includes some classroom training and then hands-on experience. And then when they're in level 2, they spend all of that time working through the various levels of that department and really understanding. So they end up being, they end up really understanding that role. And then we're hoping that will count as qualifying union days. But we're working on that. So, union friends, I'll be reaching out to you in case you have been ignoring my emails. So, that being said, I'm super excited. because there's a cost to that program, obviously.
Sure.
There's a huge cost to it. And so that's what we're getting from the expo, or from the experience, is going to go directly into providing scholarships so that we can get started right away. So
Yeah,
We're
which is
excited.
exactly what we need to plug in. And I love that it's for both kids and adults, because I think sometimes we see a lot of initiatives come out and they really are oriented around youth education to prime them for careers. But there's a ton of adults in our state that have skill sets that are completely transferable to film, line production. Let me tell you, if you're an accountant and you're looking for a little bit more of a creative life, but you want to just use your skills, you should be a line producer. There's just a ton of transferable skill sets for adults. And that's the other mission of the Incubator, is to be multi-generational, totally inclusive. And so people really realize they can adapt a career in film anytime in their life, really. You can do it in retirement. Maybe you're looking for something different and fun to do. And so abqfmi.com is my website. All of our social, everything that we're working on, how to reach us. We actually co-share space with Katharsis, so you'll find us right there at 7911 Mountain. Just follow us and check us out, and you'll start getting plugged in on a lot more of what we can do to help you really find your career or get your content created, because that's what's most important.
Yep.
Yeah, if we don't start actually staying here and creating here, we won't ever create ownership of this industry here.
I absolutely agree
Yeah,
with that.
and we have to do that. We must.
Yeah,
do
I mean,
that.
I couldn't agree more. There's so much work coming in from the west side, that's all we need. We just need that infrastructure. We need the professionals and the skills and the resources. So it's super stoked about everything that you're doing, because that's only going to benefit everybody. And then me as an actor, if we have the people that can provide all the skills and resources, that just means more work is going to come.
That's right. And I like to say we're producers producing producers at the Incubator.
Right.
We're doing a bunch of above-the-line producer training. We just had a Saturday LP UPM workshop that was really fantastic. We had 14 people attend, and it was
That's
really
awesome.
successful. And Lorraine Montez, our instructor, who is fantastic, she just relocated here from the Pacific Northwest, and she teaches this program up there, is bringing a 12-week producer training program to the Incubator in the
Excellent.
spring. So hang out. You're going to see some fall early bird tickets go on sale for that, so you can get in affordably. But, I mean, you're going to learn everything you need to know to be an above-the-line producer, honestly. And the more UPMs we have here, the more people here get hired.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
you talk to people that are working in the production offices and getting the entry-level jobs, and they'll tell you that they watch UPMs coming in from New York, Georgia, LA, etc., and they literally fly people in to do jobs that New Mexicans are sitting there on the overflow lists and stuff waiting to do.
Right.
And I always tell people, I don't blame them, because a UPM just wants to work with people they know and trust. And so sometimes the flights and the extra expense of flying people in, to them, they justify it. So the real resolution to that is to have more New Mexico UPMs. Right, because who are they going to hire? I can tell you as a UPM, I'm going to hire New Mexicans, right? Those are going to be my first call-outs, because that's who I know. That's who I trust.
Yeah.
And that's who the Incubator's training to work in a more elevated, safe set experience, both not just about physical safety, but the safety of your mental self and your emotional self while you're on the set, which is also super important. This industry is plagued with relational violence. It really is. How people talk to each other, how they disparage each other. The hierarchies get real classified into worth and value in an inappropriate way, right? If you're a PA, you are as valuable of a human as the director.
That's right.
Bottom line, full stop, period, dot. That is it, right? And so New Mexicans can foster that kind of culture on our sets, to where we create a new benchmark of what set experience is like. And so as people fly here to make movies, they'll learn very quickly, this is how we make movies. And we need to set a new standard for everybody that works in our sets. And then you can come and act in a bunch of our movies while
That's
we're getting
it. That's the
going.
plan.
Yeah.
That's exactly
the
right.
game
So
plan,
sign up on my call lists and stuff, because we're calling all local actors, all local crew. That's who I asked to come out. And I help them fundraise.
Yep.
So you will get paid for your work on these
Right.
projects. I call them, they're not Frito and Red Bull
Right. Yeah.
films.
Every
Yeah.
project
Chili
is
bags,
funny.
you know?
Yeah, paying you with an IMDb credit. No, you will get that, but you will also get daily pay. So
Right.
No,
Which
that's
is really
yeah,
important.
yeah, because you have to learn how to fundraise. And so the people that I work with, they need to know it's awkward to ask for money, and we're going to do it.
That's
And we're going to
right.
do it together.
So
and
give us your money. Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to be an executive producer and just have that nice title credit and know that your name is going out on a bunch of great local stuff that'll hit really premier festivals and things of that nature, let me know. You can be an executive
Do it.
producer.
Do it.
Yeah. Drop us a little of $5,000 and you could really help complete an entire project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really wanted to talk about today, since I had you guys on my show, and I know you guys a little bit, and I know you guys have kind of done what I've done, where like we've kind of gone through our careers or we've gone through our lives, and we at somewhere in there we decided to abandon the traditional, the norm, and go chase after our dreams. So we've
Yeah.
left our kind of, the traditional sort of day job behind. And I know Carey Rose and I have had long conversations where I'm like hyperventilating. Sometimes she is, but it's usually me, about how that choice has impacted our lives and how it's scary sometimes. But so I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time today just kind of picking your guys' brains about how do you find the courage, and what are some practical steps or a piece of
Yes.
advice we can give to our listeners to really pursue their dreams? Now, not everyone wants to be in the film industry, and I'm sure that some
Sure.
people who watch my show, they're not necessarily wanting to be movie stars or something, but I think everybody has something that they do want to pursue, whether it's a personal growth thing or whether it's a career thing, or even just growing in their personal relationships or whatever. That's maybe a little bit scarier. That's going to require a lot of abandon or sacrifice or big change. So how do we, as humans, as people, get to a place where we can safely do that? And what are kind of the ways that you guys have stepped into that? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
No, you go right ahead. Yeah. I'm still preparing it. Yeah, I was
He's
like,
still
you know what?
processing the
Yeah.
question.
We're buffering.
Yeah, I would say, reload page.
That's right. Yeah.
No, I would say honestly, and I didn't actually ever think I'd be in film. And I did my whole breakaway without film even in my
Right.
trajectory. And so I think that's what's important. I worked in a very corporate environment and it was sucking my will to live. I got paid well, it was stable, and I was like, you're killing my joy every day. And I hit a frequency where my joy, the value of my joy started outweighing the value of paychecks, income, stability, 401ks, anything of that nature. And so I decided there's got to be a way for me to take what I know how to do well and create my own brand where I can then market and do that for local entrepreneurs, small business, people that can't afford a lot of big marketing and business consultation.
Right.
And so I broke out like about 3 years before everybody did like the Great Resignation. I did mine, I looked at my corporate job and I was like, in the neck, I'm out of here,
Yeah.
I did my whole walkout.
In the neck.
You know what I'm saying? And so it was scary as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of times where I didn't know if I was going to be successful. And every time I felt that, I would tell myself, Carey Rose, you know who you are. You know what you're wanting to do with your life. And you're going to take steps to continue to do that. And that's all I would say. You don't need to see what it's going to look like. And in fact, don't do that to yourselves. It's quicksand. Know what your long-term vision is. I know that I wanted to be independently able to sustain myself using my skill sets in brand identification and marketing and communication. And that road led me all the way into film, and I would have never guessed that that's what that picture was
Right.
going to look like. And here is where I'm finally achieving what I most saw in my vision that I developed like 12 years ago. So every day, your little tool of takeaway, I would say for today is, A, know yourself before you know anything. Because if you don't know yourself, you know nothing. So the relationship you want to have with other people, just start making that relationship with yourself right now in this very moment. Start working on that. And every day do one thing that helps you get towards your goal. Even if it's a small thing like, you know what, today I'm just going to send that email to that one person and see if they want to connect.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that'll be my next shot, right? If it can just be one thing a day that you do that takes you just an inch closer, do it. Because it keeps you motivated, it keeps you on track, and then every now and then you'll get an answer.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, oh crap, look what came through, you know? I'm glad I ended up sending that email that day, because now, 6 weeks later, hello, New Mexico, check your email, I have an opportunity, you
Right.
know? And so, but do that, because if you sit and wait for anything to happen, nothing is going to happen. We have to do the action ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just doing.
Just doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's why it was Nike's like
Yeah,
slogan for
they
so
were
long.
right. They were
You
right.
just really do have to just do it.
Yeah.
Like, you
No, I
know,
agree.
at the end of the day, you can look at all the scenarios and you can try and plan out all the things, the positives, the negatives, the risks, the benefits. You can do all those things. But at the end of the day, if you're not just doing something, you know, put the idea away, because it's not going to manifest. It's just not, you know, and you're only going to feel more and more defeated and discouraged.
Right. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, you'll personalize it, and you shouldn't do that to yourself. Yeah.
How about you, Taylor?
You know, sitting here, you know, trying to think what to say. And, I think I just need a.
I kind of put you on the spot, you know?
Yeah. Could you rephrase the question?
Taylor's like, I had no fear. I was just like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to own it. And I'm amazing. The end.
I rose from the earth, and this is what I am.
It's that simple.
That's it. That's it.
But I mean, like you moved from Carlsbad.
Yeah.
There was a transition there. What made you decide, like, you know what, this is what I'm really going to make my career? I mean, it's not easy to say I'm going to go be an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of hard to kind of go from like this place and explain what made me make the decision, but I do have just a little moment that I had.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was from Carlsbad, never thought about going into the film industry. You know, it's a dream. I was going to college, and I had to take an elective, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, theater, you know, I love movies. I watch a show. And the show was A Christmas Carol. And it was like midday, so I went. I was pretty much by myself. And I'm watching this show, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, just really enjoying myself. And that's when it hit me. I had this huge sadness and disappointment in myself seeing these performers. And I was like, man, this is a beautiful show, but I am 100% sure that I need to be up there on the stage instead of sitting here as an audience member.
Yeah. And so this is a live production.
Yeah, this is a
Okay.
live production at NMSU State, you know.
Yeah.
Go Aggies. hey,
Oh,
hey,
Lobos,
hey,
Lobos.
hey, I gotta
Lobos.
represent. Gotta represent.
Gotta do the
Sorry.
pouring hot
Sorry.
coffee.
Yeah. Just throw it on me. Yeah, how dare you.
Oh, but go ahet. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what? They spurred you on towards your passion.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
you know,
that's okay.
give some dibs there.
You're in Lobo land now. That's
Yeah. Hey. But yeah, and you know, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It is.
Small town people, you know, it is a dream, and everyone has that fear. But like she said, you just do it and you find out what happens. And big picture, something you kind of learn as you get older, and if you're lucky, you learn when you're younger, is that you can't redo life.
Yeah.
You can redo a test, you could redo a job or get a different one, but you can't redo life. You only get one shot.
Yeah.
No mulligans.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think for me, it was, well, okay. I have a hard time answering this question sometimes too. I mean, there are moments where I sit here and like I will wake up some days and I will have so much anxiety that I'm freaking out. These are the moments I call Carey Rose, so she knows they still happen because I'm like, I'm panicking right now. She's like, let's just figure out what is the one thing we can do right now to go in the right direction, and then we go there. But and I mean, so I started Katharsis Media in 2019, March of 2019, which was a really opportune time to start a new business. You know, quit my job. You know, I retired as a teacher, and for me, it was really about coming to a place where I did not feel like I could continue in the path that I was on and add more value. I felt like I had kind of given everything I could give to that level with the constraints that I had. You know, and part of that was I was a high school theater teacher. I saw that my students were not able in the 4 years that I had them to progress enough to make the next step, right? They couldn't go from, you know, having no training at all to whatever I could afford them in their 4 years of high school, and then to make it to a level where they could actually get the kind of big scholarships that they needed to go off to a performing arts school. And I love Lobos, I'm a Lobo, but our school is not currently producing Broadway stars.
Right.
You know, like it's not, and that's okay. Like we're working on our musical theater program. There are great things happening in our programs, but we're not turning people over to Broadway. Like that's not a thing we're doing yet. And maybe we will someday. But that being said, what we, you know, so part of my, my kind of like passion was watching my students get these calls from these colleges, performing arts schools after they had auditioned or whatever, and they'd get really excited because they didn't understand that $11,000 or $8,000 was not going to get them to New York City. And so they thought their whole life had just, you know, their whole world had just blown up, and they were excited, and they're like, I made it, I'm going, and we go into Broadway, and they were not going anywhere because it wasn't enough. And so part of it was like just me feeling like where I was at, I couldn't give any more. So I think that's part of it, guys, is if you're out there and you're, you know, kind of sitting in a position where you feel like you've done everything you can with what you have right now to make progress towards what you think is important in that field, then I think there's a time to say, hey, maybe it's the time to start thinking about what the skills that I've acquired can do on a bigger level. Because we always have a level we can go bigger. It's time to level up. And if you're at that place where everything that you're giving, it has hit a cap, now it's time to remove the cap and start going somewhere else. So I think that that's an indicator. I also think that the other thing is something that we've done, and that's looking around and finding what are the gaps. Mm-hmm. What are the spaces where we can kind of come in and bring what we have? I know for you, you're looking at what kind of a character can I bring that other actors can't bring? What can I bring to the table that's different and that fills a need? And so that's kind of what we did.
Essentially the same thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of times I've heard a lot of people just be told, you can't do that here, or you have to move, you know, and then too, it's just my personality. I'm the kind of person that's like, really though, it's not the answer. And I always go and look to see if because there's always other answers.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, look, facts are facts. The sky is blue. We all need to agree on those things. But there's also multiple avenues and answers and directions for opportunity. So I always take like no's as this isn't the right door, but that doesn't mean that there's other doors that might be unlocked and available. And so, yeah, it's that same thing. It's just walking around and almost finding like, how do I feel their need? And then they'll in return all of a sudden just start asking me what I need. And then I'm like, well, actually, I need a bunch of stuff for all these people. And that's how we're able to, I think, make a lot of this work.
Right. Well, and I think it starts off by taking that inventory of your skills. What skills do I have? What skills have I learned? What things do I still need to learn?
Yeah.
Right. And then kind of going from there. One thing that I have a mentor that I absolutely love. I've talked about her. You guys have met her on the show. Meredith Edwards. She's married now, so I don't know which name goes first. But when I knew her in high school, it was Meredith Hackworth, and now it's Edwards. Whatever. Anyways, so she is still a mentor to me, and one of the things that she tells me is to ask yourself what has to be true in order for us to move forward. And then once we can identify what has to be true, then how do we make that true? So if it's okay, I need an office space in order to have clients, right? Right. So then what steps can I take now to figure that out? Maybe I can't go out and buy an office space tomorrow, but I can start looking, I can start setting money aside, right? I can start thinking about how much is insurance going to cost and start budgeting for that, right? So that when it's time to get there, I'm already taking the steps in that direction. Yep. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the big pieces of advice is always asking yourself, like, what needs to be true in order for this to become a reality? And thinking about, okay, so how do we get through those steps?
And what can I do right now to like receive it? Yes. Right? Like, you're not going to receive money if you don't have a bank account. So,
Yeah.
you know, like, do the basics, get your structure ready so that when people want to then give you what you're needing, or you need to then find that space, you've already set yourself up so that you're ready to do it. That's super important.
Yeah, just that entire process of recognizing those small steps
Yeah.
and how vital they are
Yes.
to get to the big picture. you know?
Yeah. Like, you know, for actors, right? You have to focus on your reels, your
Yeah.
headshots, all these things
Yeah,
that
just good
portray you
pictures.
out there. You
Yeah.
have to constantly be thinking, should I be updating that? Do I have new things I should put out there? Is what I'm doing right now, is that the reason why I'm not getting the hits I want? You know, what's happening with what I have, and what can I do to shift it a little, right?
Right.
It's always
and
about
you know,
tweaks. Yeah.
things like, do you have an Actors Access account? Do you even know what that is? Do you have an agent? If not, then what's great about that is that agents actually have an entire list of what they need you to have in order for you to move forward. So it gives you a place to really
start.
get started.
Yeah.
Everyone's always asking me, well, how do I get started in the industry? And it's like, well, you should start by taking classes. Because if you're not trained, you're not trained. And we need to start there. Even if you're great at, like, I mean, I can make myself cry on the fly. Like, I can, you know, just as an FYI, guys, I can do that. So if I'm crying, maybe second guess yourself. I'm just kidding. But
We're like, whoa.
no, I know.
What you talking about?
I'm also just a very weepy person, so I cry a lot. So there's that. But even if as my shoe falls off, excuse me, guys, I'm sorry, I was wearing weird flip flops today. You know, even if you're a great actor, which still requires training, so I'm just gonna roll my eyes. If you go, I'm a great actor, but I've had no training. I was born this way. But there's also so much that you learn about the business of acting,
Yeah.
and about professionalism, and about, I mean, there's even like things that a lot of people don't really consider or don't know until they know, and then they look like idiots. And that would be like the difference between being on an indie set and being on a big network show, right? So I mean, like, you might understand, you know, the technical differences, or I don't want to say technical differences, but for example, when I'm on an indie production, I don't have as much of a budget and as much time because my budget is super tiny, right?
Yep.
And so when I'm on a low budget production, I'm going to have maybe a 1 camera setup or a 2 camera setup, and I'm going to get what I can out of that. But for an actor, what an actor may not realize is that what that means is that the energy in the scene has to come from the actor. On a big network set, a lot of energy is actually created from the various angles and the various ways that we can move the camera, and the way that the environment is interacting with the audience. A lot of energy is actually created in just the movement of the camera, and some of the other things that you can add when you have that kind of a budget. So pacing on a network set can be a lot slower because you don't lose your audience. So a lot of times we think about, you know, pacing as an actor, but you have to ask yourself, okay, the pacing is important, but what kind of a set am I on? What is the blocking going to be? Even the space, right? When we talk, it's not just camera movement, right? Because that's related to, what does my set look like? I mean, if we're in this space, right, looking around here, I've got this space. This is where we're going to film, right? So like, this has to all look like my set. Over there doesn't look like my set. My camera can't go that way, right? If I have a bigger budget, then it can come in and look at the tiniest details of every little thing, and it can see the big picture. So your actors can move more. They actually have more space for blocking. You can have more creative blocking. On an indie set, on a low budget indie set too, you know, specifically, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about smaller spaces. You're talking about, because every extra inch of space requires more budget to make it look like that set. And so that's something that, like, I mean, I've not really seen that taught in classes either, unless you're in my classes, but I haven't seen that being taught really either.
Right.
But so there are nuances like that you're maybe just not aware of.
Yeah.
That you should be trained in. And I also think that there's, you know, I don't know how I got on that topic, but training is super important, certainly. I know that, like, for an agent, they're also going to ask for recommendations, which amazingly come from, you know, either directors you worked with or your acting coach. So training's important for that too, because you need a letter of recommendation, because your mommy doesn't count. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
My son's a great actor. He manipulates me all the time, like writing this letter, right? Like,
Right.
you know, but then there's
Yeah.
also, you know, they want to see that you that you're prepared. You have a reel, you have headshots, that kind of stuff. So those are things, and some
It
of
is
those
a
things you can adapt to
business.
fact.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's what's hard to sometimes remember about film because it feels like such fantasy.
Mhm.
You
It's
know?
play, like people think
But
it's
it
playtime.
is,
Yeah,
but it is
yeah.
a business, and it's a difficult business model to manage. Probably one of the most difficult.
Right.
Which is, I think, one of my interests in it because I feel like if I can seed some systemic growth in this industry, then I can go out to every industry and go, look, if we were able to do it in film, you can do it here, you know, because
Well,
it's complicated. And so I always tell people, you know, even if you're just like you just want to be a writer, say, I just want to write, that's all I want to do, you really should still understand how the business of film works.
Right.
You know, no matter what your role is and what your primary focus is, you should understand, you know, where is your producer say, like, what do they focus on and what's
Right.
important to them, right? What does the camera team focus on and what's important to
Right.
them, right? These are the things that all of us should spend some time really understanding because the more you know about how the whole gear works together, just the more professional and plugged in you're going to appear when you get into conversations with
Right.
key people that you need to know and meet, and then you're going to stick in their noggin as somebody who knew their stuff.
Right.
And that's how people hire people here.
Yeah.
You know, and in film in general, it's always like, oh yeah, there was that one great PA on my last production, and you know what? They would be a great first AD. Actually, they should just be a first.
Well,
AD.
and I mean, I had that
Right?
experience on a set I was on recently. There was a PA, and I was collecting names at the end, and I always do. And I marked her down as, I need an AD
Yeah.
right now. My AD is doing
Yeah.
a Disney internship,
Is it
which I'm
Tabitha?
super excited about. But good God, Emma, really for real right now?
Yeah.
So now we're.
Yeah.
She's amazing. So Disney, you are lucky, okay? But me, I'm here without my Emma. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
PG-13 friends.
But that'll happen on productions. Sometimes
All the
it'll
time.
happen on the same production. They'll see a PA moving and shaking, and they'll go, you know what? We're going to move you up. And
Yeah.
they move them up on the same production set.
Yep.
It can happen. You just really, you have to know about what everybody does. You really need
Right.
to inform yourself. And that way you can have a level of respect for it.
Right. Well, and there's an expectation as well that, because there is not always the formal training in film that we, would like to see. Because sometimes, you know what, you just need an AD and you don't necessarily have whomever, right?
Yeah.
And so there's an expectation that you, as the person who's going to fill that role, are going to go. If you don't have the training, you're going to go get it. I know that on our last production, I had one of my assistants who's helped me with a ton of things step into the role as a scripty for the first time ever. And I didn't give her training on it. I said, you're going to be scripty and good times, have fun. And she went home and did the homework and had to learn how to do that role. And that's expected. I mean, if you're going to step into a role, you're going to be expected to know how to do it. And there's kind of an assumption that you've already had a general idea of what that role does and are prepared to step into that. And so, we always say that, it's a business, but I also want to say, it's a career and it's a professional career.
Yeah.
And it requires professional level training and intention. And you have to invest into it just like any other professional career that you have, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or a
Yeah.
teacher or anything else. There is a learning curve and you need to get there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
You
think,
can invest it without a load of student debt though, just FYI.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
cool.
that's right. You can.
Yeah.
You should said you can,
Yeah.
just so you know.
Yeah. You can.
Yeah.
I didn't mean
Which
to
is
interrupt
great.
you.
no, I was just gonna say, and even more so exclusively in this industry because of its nature to be so inconsistent.
Yeah.
Like if you're a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, it's a straight line. That you know what you got to do, you know what's expected, and you try your best to achieve that in a timely manner. And you can try your best to check all those boxes in the film industry, but the industry doesn't
Right.
reciprocate the same consistency.
It's like the Wild West. You don't know what you're stepping into.
Exactly. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really got to be a cowboy.
we've got kind of just a couple of minutes. So what kind of final words would you give to our listeners to encourage and inspire them today?
I'll say my favorite quote, which a lot of you have heard me say, but I really believe, and I follow a lot of what I do on this, is by William James, the father of pragmatism. And he says, the only value in a concept is its practical consequences. So you've got to get things out of here and into the planet. And so I love vision boards, but please, for the love of God, do some things too.
Yes.
Like you can't just hang up wishes.
Yeah.
You've got to work towards the wishes. Set them as goals instead
Yeah.
of wishes, I would say.
Yeah. I
And
love that.
and believe in yourself. Love yourself. If you fail, that is a success. Failure's where all your learning comes from. Successes, we're just all, woo, we're badasses, and we celebrate. Failures is where we go home and think about it
Yeah.
and what happened. That's where all your success is. So every time you feel like you get no answer, bad answers, you get knocked down, you feel like stressed out, no, you got it. You got this.
That's great.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, just I guess one of my most personal mantras I always tell myself is that time waits for no man.
Yeah.
You know, at the happiest of times, it goes. At the saddest of times, it
It
goes.
I love that.
So why wouldn't you want to make the best of something that, you know, it's going to leave you
Yeah.
behind if you don't?
Yeah, remember, he said it, no do-overs.
That's
Like,
right.
You got to do it now.
And so, you know, I mean, that kind of leaves us with the motto of this show, which is live, don't dream.
Yes.
And it's important to have
Very
dreams,
nice.
but they don't matter if you don't walk them out. So, friends, get off your couch, get out there and live your dreams. That's about all the time we have for today. So, thank you guys so much for joining me today. This has been phenomenally inspirational for me. I look forward to seeing your guys' continued work in the community. I think it's time for a
new
agenda.
agenda.